Welcome to Module 2, where we'll talk about what to do against this move d5. So after d5, LEELA is just e3. So remember that if they go g6, we go knight f3. If they go d5, we go e3. So if they go there's a variety of moves: c5, bishop f5, e6. Let's do the most popular move is c5. We'll go knight f3. Then go, according to the database, knight c6 is most popular. We'll go knight DB2, knight BD2, sorry. So now we go most popular lines, taking D4, pawn takes D4, bishop f5, bishop B5 is important to pin the knight because after this E6 and queen B6, the most popular move is E6. Now we go knight E5 because the knight is pinned, why not pressurize it? So after queen B6, we have C4. The cool thing is if they take the pawn C4, we have this take on C6. This one makes the queenside pawns look really raggedy and really easy to target. Now we go knight takes c4. Right away we take one pawn, and after queen a6 we have queen e2, bishop b4 check. We just do bishop back, takes this trade, and after castles we go queen a5, saying I want to trade off the queens. They'll say, oh, not until you fix my pawns. They're saying, no, I insist. If we go queen e5, now we take on there, because if this one, after knight a5, we have a clear advantage for white, because after this one is nothing really special, because this one's happening. Knight e7 is a fork, and it will win the rook if they allow us, but if they don't allow us with a king f8, we have this f3 move. So basically, it falls up long sequence, but actually what is clearly better here, and basically the black knight is stunted, doesn't have any advanced squares. White has two knights really approaching on the white camp, and if you see this optically, no black pieces on the white side of the board. So if you have a line between, let's say, this one and this one, we have two knights on the white, like the black camp, and no pieces on the white camp from black. So we have initiative, we have space, we have actually a clear advantage. So we don't have to worry about it. We have an isolated pawn on d4. So what? It's in a close file. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a target. We have a good game. So let's go move on. Let's go move on. So we're going to move on in the sense that we're going to look at other things. There's a lot of things to look at in this one. And let's talk about after d5, there's also a move like bishop f5 or e6. So let's say e6 is the second most popular move. We'll do knight f3. Bishop, there's a lot of moves to look at. So let's say if the go is black, bishop d6. There's the most popular line. So we'll go bishop b3. They could take on f4, but honestly, it's not really much pressure. Then just queen d2. We have a holster of e5 pushes, not going to happen. So this castle's in h4. LEELA recommends h4. It's really, really fun. Because after this one c5, take a c5, they take with a queen, knight c3, knight c6, castles now. After queen b6, we have knight f4, attacking the queen. Queen b4, we'll take this one off. a3. The cool thing is they take on d4, but I promise you it's not a problem at all, because knight c5, attacking c6, d7 rather. So we'll take this off. b4, just basically how to combat knights, holster their advanced squares. We just take away this option, and we have this actual advantage. So after rook c8, we have rook fc1. So king f8. Let's move the kings in. After a6, we'll move the kings in. Knight d4, move the kings in. So the point is, knight d4 is actually really resourceful because it also blocks and patrols c2. So penetration is pretty much impossible unless they want to exchange sack. So after this one, h5, they try to attack the pawn, but now we do rook h1. They go rook c3, trying to be aggressive, but now g4. So rook a c8. g5, that move knight back, and I go g6. So we take this one off, and now the cool thing is king d2, just overprotecting c2. And after knight e7, we have rook a e1. Doesn't matter if they take on, let's say, this pawn, we have this check on e6. And clearly white has something to play for, whereas black is really having a really good struggle. But it's not all in the story. So let's go back. So we'll talk about the final thing in this part 2 is talking about bishop f5 instead of e6. So bishop f5 instead of e6. So bishop f5 will be met by c4. So c4 is a way to talk about how to play against bishop f5 things. So they're trying to do a London counter London with the things, but we're just having a difference. So they can go e6 or c6. So if they go the most popular e6, we go knight c3. So after knight c3, it transposes to other things we'll see it later on, but basically there's nothing special. But what about c6? Knight c6, knight c3, e6, queen b3. They can go queen b6, b6, queen c8. We looked at all of them. You can look at your own time with the PGN file. But let's say the most popular move is queen b6, c5, take on b3. And after this most popular knight bd7, we go b4, holstering and strengthening c5 square. So the most popular move is knight h5, bishop c7 is a LEELA invented move. So because if they attack this bishop, we go bishop e5, basically provoking this rook to go to inferior square. And also they had to go a6 because it was rook on e1 is attacking this one, so they had to waste time and tempos. Now we go f3, and what's trying to g4 fork him, so they have to be wary of that. So they go knight f6, g4 anyways. Bishop f4 is important to do this one, but you'll see why in a moment. So bishop e7, knight e2. That's why we don't do bishop e3. We want to maybe have this one to go to g3 with the knight and e2. So after h5, we go g5. Knight h7, we go h4 to simplify this control of g5. They go f6, they'll take this one. This one, bishop h3. And after f5, we have bishop e3, and knight f4 is coming in. So we don't have to rush anything. We just have a close position we have to do in the maneuvering game. So after king f7, knight f4, knight f8 was really, but there's really lack of thing to do. Knight like f6, instead of knight f6 is really not doing anything, so it's passing the turn to white, so it's not really doable. So usually they go knight f8, then e4, and white is having so much better positions, and we don't have to worry about anything. So that concludes the part 2, and you can look at all the details in the PGN file, and I'll see it in module 3. Hey, check this video out to make sure that you get more important information to bring your chess to the next level.